Welcome to the challenge show, folks. Today, I got a project I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I heard a long time ago you could do this with rope and you can do this with cable. I've never tried it, so we're gonna try this together. So the goal is I got an old winch cable off my razor, and I have a broken end on it, and I'm going to take this in, unbraid it, do a loop, braid it back to itself. So I reckon crane guys or tugboat guys, guys that work with these bigger cables do this on a regular basis. And I seen it a long time ago on the internet, YouTube, I'm sure. And I was like, hey, that could come in handy out on a trail. Or in my case, I have this winch cable that's been rolled up, hanging on the back of the garage for a couple years now because I replaced it with a synthetic line. And I want this end to be a loop so I can use it, whether it's with my property maintenance or pulling a vehicle out or pulling on something, whatever. I have an end on it. So what we got here is the very end of the cable. Now each one of these cables are made up of little tiny wires that are twisted together to make one cable. And then those cables are twisted together to make the main line. So what you want to do is you want to bust these apart. Take a hammer, cut them, whatever you got to do to get this end to fray, and start pulling these apart to where you get them split. You can pull one at a time, and then so if you pull one, try to pull the one right next to it, and you'll start getting it to unwind like so. All right. So now you've got 3 twisted wires here and 4 here. You want it as even as you can. And as you can see, as I untwist it, you can see a pocket that is missing cable now. Same thing on this one. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm doing this for new myself. I don't want a big old loop on it, so I'm gonna unwind a little bit more. So we got it getting it unwind here. You want to, I don't want a real big loop, especially if I'm trail riding or whatever. I'd say, there's about a foot and a half, and you want to try to get an idea of how big your loop is, and you want a tail hanging off of it. So just finagle it around, and that leave me a little bit of a tail. These two come together. So right here, where I was showing you earlier, the pockets where there is no wire, you want to try to put those back together in the same spot. Alright, so like I said, we got plenty of length right there. Twist them together. Gotta find a pocket for them to go in. Alright. And you just go off of them, the open areas that I was saying. See, now that looks back to be the braided end. So we're going to go ahead and run this all the way around, making sure to lay it back into itself. And it honestly, it just naturally wants to lay in there. Getting that end of the loop started was a little aggravating, little trial and error there. That's why I cut the video, to be honest with you. And I just had to play with it. I didn't want a 37-minute video of me trying to figure out how to do this. So now I've got these back together. I don't think that might go under there. So now you end up with your cable put back together and a tail. And we're going to continue that wrap with the tail. Now you've got the tail out there and the end. And from my understanding, that is going to be just as strong some things I'm reading saying that no, it won't be as strong, but you know, who knows? You'll see in a minute. We're gonna go test the piece out. Besides, the only difference between that piece that I'm testing and this one is I didn't leave the tail on it. I just wrapped it back 100% back to itself. And you know, that's the whole thing about all this. Is I could go out and buy U-bolts. I have done that before, and I'll show you how I U-bolted them. I don't have them with me, so I'm basically just going to show you what I did. And it failed quite often. It would still pull razors out, side by sides, stuff like that out. I'm sure it'd pull a vehicle in the right circumstance. It would pull a vehicle out, no problem. But it still did give. This, I think the cable's gonna break, in my opinion. What people say on the internet, you know, guys that run these tugboats and cranes and deal with a lot heavier stuff than a side-by-side or a vehicle, are saying that this right here is the way to go. Don't have to buy a new cable with ends on it. Don't have to buy the stuff to make new ends. So I'm just going to douse the tape to it. You know, they say if you can't duck it, electrical tape it. And all electrical tape does is mainly so you can grab it. But right there, that'll fit over a ball. You can hook a chain into it. You can hook another winch cable into it. What have you. And that's going to be just as strong, if not stronger, than this end. I have broken many of these. Ripped these out. You can see how much damage that one's already got. I know you can buy the stuff to do this to your cable. I just don't think it'll be as good as a factory one, and you're going to spend a bunch of money buying all that stuff. So what I was saying is, with the U-bolts, I would turn it back on itself. I would turn it back on itself, U-bolt, U-bolt, and then flip this one over and U-bolt it into the middle of those two. So when they do start sliding, they slide and crunch up together. And that was the best setup that I had figured out with a few U-bolts. But at the end of the day, you have this big old mess of U-bolts and cable all knotted up on the end, and then your hook hanging out of it. So when you're grabbing it, you got crap stabbing you in the hand. Hopefully this is going to be a lot easier, smoother. Like I said, you can hook it right on a hitch, start pulling on it. I'm sure it'll straighten out and it'll get a kink right here, but hey, free 99. I wouldn't say free 99 because it I did have to buy that on the winch. So, but I'm not using it now. It's usable again, and we're gonna go test this other little piece that I made up, which I'll cut to that. And like I said, on that one, I didn't leave a tail on it. I just wrapped it back into itself to make a complete loop and then taped each end, and I want to see how strong it was. And we're going to go hook it to the old Ferd, old 8N, give her some tugs, and we'll get it tested out. Stay tuned. Now we're going to try it with this little one here. Alright, now I've got two pieces. And I'm going to do the same thing. But this time I need to go to the halfway point. And I'm going to take one and I'm just going to start braiding it back together. Start twisting it around itself. It would appear that end is all jacked up. So now you've got two ends right here. I might want to go ahead and cut that off. And I don't think these are going to cut it. So what I did there? They're going to cut it. No. It laughed at me. Nah, we ain't worried about it, are we? Surely not. Let's go hook it to the 8N and tug on something, shall we? Let's see how strong it is. We're gonna have to choke it out. Well, there you go, folks. I'm not sure where it felt. I think it come untied is what I think it did. Which, yeah, it definitely came untied. Right there's the other, right there's where that end went, and right there's where that is. I guess that just goes to show on the tail end on this that is important to keep it from unraveling. That still to me was pulling really hard on that tractor. I do honestly think on a slow steady pull there's a big difference between snatching something and a slow steady pull. That was the farthest thing from a slow steady pull. It's got, you know, tree to chain to steel cable to steel equipment, and I mean I was dumping the clutch on it. Yeah, it doesn't look like a whole lot on that video, so you know, come to replay that in my head, I guess it looked like it snapped pretty easy, but most of the time you're using a winch and it's a slow steady pull on that winch, and I think this thing would have held up to a whole lot more than what that tractor led it on to be. That was a lot of jerking force. I mean, if that tractor weighs 2,000 pounds, I'm dumping the clutch on it. You got a lot of momentum. You know, you're probably doubling that momentum snatching on at 4,000 pounds. I mean, the winch is only rated for 4,000 pounds, all it can do. So what I'm getting at is it definitely put the tail on it. Maybe I'll play around if I get some more cable and try to make some loops, because I think these little loops would be handy to have. If you could figure out a way to tie them back together and then do a loop and then do a tail and then tape the tail up too, it would be handy to have a little loop laying around. Hook two winch cables together, because the big thing is with steel cables when you're using them is you don't want to bend them. You don't want to kink these things up, because once they're kinked forever. That's why I cut all this off the end, and actually it was a little bit of a pain to put back together. So moral of that is I think it'll work, and that might be another tool to put in the toolbox. So I do sure appreciate y'all watching the Chelt Show, folks, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one. God bless.